Well, good morning. I hope you're doing well. I've made a right faux pas this morning, a right mess up, because although it's the 7th of May, it's been, up until now, it's been really quite cold. It was freezing cold yesterday. Well, I say freezing cold, but it was cold. So I've been used to wearing lots of clothes. And as you know, from my previous videos, I like to keep camouflaged and as low key in my clothing as possible, so that I don't frighten away wildlife. But today I'm overdressed, and the trouble is I've got a bright red rugby shirt on, which is, I need to take this off because I'm too warm. But I don't know if I'll get at all close to any birds with this bright red shirt on, so we'll have to see how it goes. But this is Wanstead Flats. I thought I'd bring you here as a little break from my obsession with the sparrowhawk that my recent films have been full of. This is a way away from that area where I've been observing the sparrowhawk, and this is Wanstead Flats. Wanstead Flats is a wonderful area actually for wildlife and for getting away from the city. We are in a sort of middle chunk of it between, over this side is Leytonstone and Bushwood, over this side is the main part of, there's a road here, and then across that road is the main chunk of Wanstead Flats, which is more over towards Forest Gate and Manor Park. So this little chunk I quite like because it's not too busy, and you can see some quite interesting birds if you're quiet and you don't have clothing that's too loud. So it's a nice little place. But I'll give you a little overview. There are some wonderful historians of local historians who I've seen speak a few times on this, Peter Williams and Mark Gorman. So if you come across their talks or whatever, I'd recommend you check them out. They really know their stuff, and I'll put a link down below so that you can find out more about them. But they've done a lot of history work on the flats, and it's quite an interesting area. I mean, I read somewhere quite a few years ago that Roman legions camped on the flats 2,000 years ago. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but I read that somewhere. I can't remember where. But more recently, in Victorian times, the flats were used as a source of soil for gardening and for vegetable growing, and so they dug up the soil here and sold it for food, small scale agricultural activities, and for gardening. We're close to London. Well, we're in London, so there was plenty of demand for soil. So consequently, actually, the flats are actually lower, and this part's particularly noticeable. The flats are lower than the level of the road because so much soil has been taken away. So the soils here have to some extent, I mean, this was 100 odd years ago, the soils here have to some extent started to build up again, but they're still very thin, which, you know, I hope the soils can be allowed to regenerate and therefore provide more nutrients for wildlife and plants and trees and so on. But it's an interesting area. And then, of course, later on, I've always been interested in the Second World War, but in the Second World War, this area was used for all sorts of things. So this very bit that we're sitting in at the moment was, there was an Italian prisoner of war camp here, and there was also a smaller German prisoner of war camp here later on. So at one point in the war, there were prisoner of war camps here holding both Italian and German prisoners. the flats were also used for hosting anti-aircraft guns. I think there was more over the main part of the flats over that side, and also on the main part of the flats there are still. I'll have to dig out a photo and show it to you as a woodpecker. Dig out a photo and show it to you of tethering points for barrage balloons. Of course, barrage balloons were tethered with large cables, and as those cables were intended to inhibit or to disrupt or damage enemy bombers in the Second World War. So the flats got quite a rich history with regard to the war. Then, of course, after the war, or I think towards the end of the war, parts of the flats were used for temporary housing for people who'd lost their houses as a result of the bombing. So it's got quite a rich history in that way, yeah, I mean these historians give you a good insight into some of the political activities and the disputes and the actions that people took to protect access to the flats, and political rallies were held here, and all sorts of outlaws hid out over here and things like that. So it's a place with a rich history, and I'd recommend it. Also, another person worth checking out is John Rogers, our local YouTuber and excellent historian and geographer and walker. He gives he's got several videos giving you a bit more insight into Wanstead Flats. So I'll put a link down below for his videos as well, because they're very well worth checking out. Back to nature, wildlife. I was here a couple of days ago, and I know quite a few of the bird watchers around here, and I got a tip off that it was worth going down to the lake at the far end, Alexandra Lake, there to see a rarity, which was a Blacknecked Greeb, which I managed to get a photograph of, which I'll show you now. But this is a bird that's not been seen on the flats for 40 years. So great work by Mary of Forest Gate, who found it, and yeah, it's caused a bit of excitement around here locally. But it's also, and it was nice to get that photo, but it's also nice to see, as we are slowly coming into the warmer weather, to see the migrants arriving. Yes, well, 2 days ago I saw my first swifts of the year over here, and also I've seen whitethroat and lesser whitethroat, some visitors that come over here in the summer. So it's great to see. It's great to see the new arrivals. Anyway, one other little thing I found, which I thought may or may not be of interest to you, is this. So I don't know if you can see that, but this is a bird pellet, which I found a few meters up that way. I'm not sure what it is, but as you know, birds of prey often eat animals whole, and then they regurgitate these pellets, which often contain the undigestible parts of their prey. So this, I've got a very good book at home which tells you how to identify pellets and different animal tracks and signs, and I'll have a look in that book when I get home. I'm going to take this home, and this could be. I've had a look at it, and it's got bones in it, and it's got what looks like fur. So it's probably a kestrel or an owl pellet, I'm guessing, rather than a peregrine or a sparrowhawk or something like that, which eats birds predominantly. So I think this is something that eats voles and mice and things like that. I'll take it apart when I get home and see if I can find any identifiable bones. but I've done that before. Some people find it quite disgusting, but I find it fascinating. So there's my my little find for the day. The other thing, at a huge distance, I've seen this morning. I've seen what I'm pretty sure is a peregrine high in the sky. So I've got a very blurred photograph of it, which I'll show you now. But I think there's a parakeet's just flown over. So I'll show you that now. See. I'll be looking out for that to see if I can get a better view of it. But it could also be potentially. It could also be a hobby, because at that distance you can't tell actually. But it could be a hobby because I was tipped off the other day as well that hobbies have been seen over here in the morning. So we'll have to see if we can get any better views of those sorts of birds. So yeah, so this is Wanstead Flats, and I'll be having a look round, seeing what I can see. Hope you enjoy. So I just stopped for a cup of tea. I've been wandering around Wanstead Flats. I went over to the main area over there, just by the... there's fencing up, just to keep the dog walkers and dogs away from a patch of ground where there are nesting skylarks. And I had a little wander around there. I took some photographs of whitethroat and a couple of pictures of a robin, which look quite nice on the back of my camera screen. So I'll have to have a look at those when I get home, see if they're worth keeping. A few birds in the distance, and I had a nice flyby of a green woodpecker, but I wasn't quite ready with the camera, so I didn't get a shot there. I'd love to get a really nice shot of a green woodpecker in flight. I mean, the light is good today, and it was, you know, it was looking quite bright and splendid in its plumage in this light, but unfortunately it was a little bit too quick for me. That's the real key to, in my view, to successful bird in flight photography is seeing the bird early enough. If you see the bird early enough, then you've got a reasonable chance of getting your camera set up quickly and getting ready. Because normally when I'm walking around, I keep my camera on 1/500th of a second, but when I'm taking pictures of birds in flight, it's 1/1500th of a second or 2000th of a second. And you know, just that time when you're just fiddling with that can be critical. Half a second lost where you miss the shot, but you know, I have to keep trying on these things, you know. So yeah, so that's my little sort of overview of Wanstead Flats for you. If you do get a chance, come and visit. It's a lovely place. This is wildlife in the city. You can experience nature in the city. I've taken a few photos to give you an illustration of how close we are to Canary Wharf and to the city. Well, we are in the city, but to the you know, the built-up financial districts and so on. So yeah, so this is nature in the city. So that's what I think. I think it's really important that we are able to experience nature within the city, and it's not just something for people who live out in the countryside. But I think it's really important that people, and the vast majority of people in Britain live in cities. I think it's vitally important that that everybody has the opportunity to experience and interact with nature, and not just. I mean, there's plenty. London's great for parks, and open spaces. There are places you can play football and places that you can go and walk in, you know, in a park, Hyde Park, you know, Victoria Park, and so on. But parks that are or open spaces that are not, well, that are managed for wildlife or kept as a natural habitat, those are the areas that that you're going to see where there's biodiversity, that you're going to see birds and animals in their natural state. And those areas to me are the most important. And Wanstead Flats, just like other bits of Epping Forest are really vital for that. Also, I mean, in this part of London, the Lee Valley has got a lot of areas where nature flourishes. So, I mean, they're vital in my view to our sort of cultural well-being, it seems to me. So, so I hope you've enjoyed this little overview of Wanstead Flats, a little taster of what's on offer here. So, yeah, so that's Wanstead Flats. So come and visit if you get the chance, and I look forward to seeing you next time.